Greetings, this is Walt Weir with JCCC, Johnson County Community College, and I am here to demonstrate Lab 2612, securing the router. This is your basic configuration through all the labs that we have here. This is the content that we have, and of course you can read this at your leisure and do the lab. But if you really want to do it right, you want to make sure that you get over here and download it from Cisco Netcad and get the one here. One thing about this lab, just to tell you right off the start, is that you are not, let me just put this in this, I already uploaded it there, but you do not have to do the, what was it? Task 2, securing the iOS image. So you do not have to do this one. I'll upload this later. Skip this task. It's not task 1. Let's just get rid of that. Skip the iOS task. It did not work for me. All right, it's already in the lab though. So here we go. This is the way I do these labs, and you might want to try it too. Get your basic configs in here because you basically want to not do everything over and over again. If you're comfortable with doing these commands, then go ahead and do it. So I have all my commands that we're going to be doing this lab in a notepad. And I don't actually go over the material, I just go over this stuff to show you the commands and make sure that they go in correctly. And then your job is to answer the questions. So again, here we go. Oh, the first thing I do is I take all this stuff right here. I start out with enable config t, no IP domain lookup. I want to encrypt the algorithm, and we'll talk more about the script in chapter 7, but enable algorithm type script secret, right? And one thing about my labs, I always want to make sure that you guys use the same password, Cisco 12345, and that's if you're going to be doing these labs. I don't really want you to be using the labs that they have here. I mean, if you go look at the passwords that they have here, it's Cisco VTY. Let's see if they can find them. Anyway, it's those weird passwords that you've been doing all over the time. I don't want you to sit here in troubleshooting passwords. I want you to be doing what you do best and do the labs. So all my labs are Cisco 1234, or the passwords are going to be Cisco 12345 for everything in this throughout this whole lab that I'm doing. If you want to use their passwords, that's fine, you can, but I just don't like troubleshooting passwords, and hopefully you don't either. So anyway, we put all this information in there again. We do the line console, login local, which means it's going to be going to the local database, login synchronous, and you guys should know what that means now. Because the lab said so, I put the auxiliary port in there and the VTY ones too. And we make sure all of them are login local, so they're using this username and password. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this later, but privilege 15 means it's bypassing what you normally would do and gives you access to level 15 right away, right when you log in. It's a kind of nice thing to do. You'll see it from the difference from the other labs that you've done. So we're going to take this real quick, copy it, paste it into all the routers. And we want to make sure that you don't get any errors all the way through it. Of course, the banner's there too. Go to R2. Since that one worked, we kind of assume this one's going to work too. So we paste it in there. And this is what I mean. Don't waste your time trying to do the stuff that you know. If you need help doing this one, please do it all. Type in all the commands that you need to. The next thing we want to do is configure the interfaces, and as you can see on the topology, I'll show you that in a second. This is what you're going to want for R1, and then it's going to have you do the OSPF2. So we're going to put that into. Hopefully you're pretty accomplished with those real quick. So we go to R1. Paste this in. And of course, it's just a serial interface. It's doing no shut OSPF1, passive interface GI001, and then the two networks that are in there. So paste this. And again, this is what we're talking about. This is what we're talking about with this. We're putting all these IP addresses in there and configuring them. You guys should be pretty comfortable with doing that by now. And as you can see, we come down here again, and we have everything in there. Go to R2, do the same thing for R2. Now this one only has two interfaces on it because it's simulating the ISP. So we put these in there for the two interfaces and have the same network. So this is 10.1.2 and this is 2.2. And we put the two OSPF neighbors in here. There's no passive interface. And do the same thing for R3. So if you do this, then you're going to spend most of your time working on the lab, and I find that a lot easier. And of course you go over to PC1, and I already got the commands up there, right? This is PCA, excuse me, it's going all the way to PC3. So I'm going to just up arrow and see if it goes through. And I'm also going to go to C and do the same thing. See if I get through the network. If I don't, then I'm see what happens. And as you can see, it dropped the first packet here and the rest were good. And I can ping from this end to this end, right? Three received. Wait a minute. That don't sound right. Hang on, let me troubleshoot this a minute. So what happened is I forgot my OSPF statement, so let's just put those in right now. Router OSPF1 network 10.2.2.2, excuse me, 0.0.0.0.3 area 0. There it goes. Network 192.168 3.0.0.0.255 area 0. Passive GI001 PNP show IP OSPF neighbor. And that's why I got it one way and not the other way. Now let's go ahead and try it one more time. See if it works. Yes, it works now. All right, then the next thing we're going to do is SSH. And as in class we explained this, right? We need to do this in a certain order, and we're going to do it on R1, which is always fun, right? The first thing we have to have is a domain name. And let's just put these in here. In the text box. So the first thing we're going to need is an IP domain name, ciscosecurity.com. We're going to have another username, admin, and I'm going to go 3 this time because I know I'm using 1 and 2 later this thing. Privilege level 15 and the Cisco 12345. Then we also want to generate an RSA key. Those are the 3 things we need right now. And let's just go ahead and paste that. See if it works. Now the RSA key is the crypto key that's going to be transferred between you and the computer. And there it goes. And as you can see, the domain name went through there. The admin privilege went in there. And then the crypto key generator RSA module 1024. Most of you guys already done this before. Then we just go to PC1. Oh, excuse me. Go back to PC R1. Paste the terminal. And this is just, the only new thing we're putting in is transport SSH. I actually say all, and that's just me. For labs, I put all. Privilege level 15, that means that they get in a privilege level 15. Login local, that means they use that earlier username and password. And then we're just going to do a few things real quick. EXIT, show, excuse me, I forgot to do that. Config T, IP SSH version 2. You always want to do version 2. Nobody uses version 1 anymore. Do show IP SSH. And you can see the information here, right? And the things I'm going to be looking to change is the authentication time to 90 seconds and the authentic retrade to 2. And this is just an easy way to do it. And it tells you in the lab too, right? But that's what you're looking to change. So we want to go, and by the way, if you want to look at what I'm talking about a little bit closer, just to include time. And this is exactly what we're changed. So we'll come back and look at this. But there's your SSH. You're using version 2 and everything else. IP SSH timeout. 90 seconds. And IP SSH authentication retries. And we want to go to 2. And we want to go up arrow a couple times. And now we can see that this was 120 to 3, and now we can see it's 120 to 2. The next thing we want to do is SCP, Secure Copy Protocol, right? What we want to do is turn on AAA new model. If you're not already doing this, you probably want to be doing this every lab. And I'll put this in my beginning script after this lab. Each lab builds on its, the last lab. So if you need practice and you don't remember them very well, keep on typing them out, like I said. But if you know them, I usually put them into my beginning one so I don't do it, so I don't have to do this anymore. So the next couple of things we're going to write down, and again, I'll just type them up. AAA. To do the logs, you got to do AAA, authenticate, authentication log, default, I think I skipped something. Hang on, let me trouble. Default local, I'm sorry. We would have did a question mark, you could have seen this, and we're just wondering. You could do all the rest. We're going to be talking about all this stuff in Chapter 7, so. I did forget one thing. We want to go back to PCA and do SSH, just so we can make sure that that worked. Get into PuTTY. We can find it here.